Welcome to Gaia's Love, a podcast of brief messages to help humanity bridge the gap to the new earth. My name is Vivienne Gerard. It is my delight to be a scribe for consciousness today, sharing the wisdom that flows through from Source. Here we go. Episode 168. It is Thursday today, April 4th. It is absolutely beautiful here in Cincinnati. I feel like we are living in paradise. I have the windows open, so you may hear some of the birds singing outside or the traffic. We live at the top of a hill, and so the sounds of the traffic come up from the valley. It's just gorgeous. The sky is blue, sun is shining, the trees are blossoming. I mean, it is such an incredible, beautiful day. So today I went to yoga at the studio that my mom and I go to, about 20 minutes away from here. And when I arrived, my mom didn't go today, so when I arrived by myself, I was walking in and there's this incredibly beautiful tree right at the entrance, quite a few trees, and I believe they're weeping cherries. They look like a weeping cherry, but there wasn't anyone for me to ask, so I'm not sure. But they're gorgeous, and I took a picture, which is what I'll use for the video for today. It was stunning. It was this incredible vision of blossoms hanging from the sky, because the way the tree is shaped, it just looks like they're hanging down so that you can stretch your hand up and grab them, even though they're very tall. This is probably the tallest of those kinds of trees that I've seen. And so I went into yoga with just this joy from looking up at the sky and seeing this incredible tree. And then in yoga, this beautiful instructor that we have just holds such incredible space, and everything she was doing was a chakra activation, and it was about elevating your energy from your root chakra all the way up, and then at the end you direct it, to your crown chakra and then up through into the sky. So everything was about elevating and lifting up and raising your vibration. And so by the time I left there, I was so happy. And then I got in the car to come home, and we have this beautiful new car. If you haven't heard it yet, one of my podcasts, I talked about this accident that I had in December with my car, my Odyssey that I'd had for 12 years, and that it was time to buy a new car. And my husband found this beautiful Honda Pilot, a few years old, that I just love, that we've named Bella because she's so beautiful. And so I got in the car and it was warm, and I could open up the sunroof and feel the warmth of the sun coming in through the sky. It was just the best. So as I was driving home and listening to music and just reveling in how good I felt, there was an area where, close to home, one of the exits near our exit, there are always birds circling really high up. I'm assuming they're hawks, but I don't know. They're so high I can't see them. But they're always in the same area. They must live in this grove of trees. And as I was driving, I was watching the road and also, looking at the sky to see these beautiful birds. And there was one bird that was way, way up above all the other birds, completely just like floating, like gliding. You know how there are the planes that glide that don't even have a motor? It just looked like that. It was just gliding through the air. It wasn't even moving its wings. And it was so high and so free and all by itself and just majestic. And to me, it felt like it was in pure bliss. And so I was watching this bird and watching the traffic and watching the bird and watching the traffic and driving, and made my way home and got home and took Star for a walk and was outside and just reveling again in like how amazing life is, and how beautiful it feels to be in a really positive space and to feel the joy of life. And then I started picturing and thinking about that bird, and so I have a couple of reflections about that bird and the topic, which I'm calling Flying High. I believe many of us from a very young age, when we are super joyful or super creative or super anything, we are often told to stop being that and to be smaller, or to, drop lower or whatever, to shrink or dim our light a little bit. And I'm sure I've talked about this before in other podcasts. But when I was looking at that bird today, here's there's so many reflections that I want to share. So I'll start with the one that feels most present. When I was looking at the bird, what I could feel is that bird has to be so strong and so healthy in its body to be able to hold that high level of flight and be able to hold its wings so steady and fly for long periods of time without having to come back to the earth. It must be so strong, because a weaker bird would not be able to hold that level of vibration. And that feels so true for all of us here in human bodies. In order to fly high, to see higher vistas, bigger pictures, grander opportunities, grander possibilities, we would need to be strong of spirit, strong of mind, strong in body, to be able to hold that vibration steady and bring into form what we are visualizing. It would be much harder, perhaps if not impossible, to be able to manifest huge dreams if we were sick all the time, or if our mind was telling us it wasn't possible, or we were stupid, or we need to live in the past. If the spirit wasn't able to touch the thrill of those visions, we wouldn't be able to bring them into form. There would be so much disharmony, so much time spent trying to harmonize our mind, our body, our spirit, that we wouldn't be able to create and bring into reality those visions that we see. I have shared this before, or I know I shared this in my first book. I believe when artists, high conscious artists, for example, Prince is one that immediately comes to mind, when they have these incredible creative visions, or this ability to translate love and energy into songs, and they're holding these high, flying high visions and trying to translate them for humans, sometimes the discrepancy between what they see and what they know is possible and what's actually being created here on earth, the discrepancy is too big. It's so painful to know what's possible and yet not be able to create it or express it or share it. And that discrepancy, it's painful for someone very talented, and so sometimes the body shuts down earlier, or the mind brings them into a depression, or a space of a place where they're not as able to work through the difficulties. Or even worse, perhaps the soul simply gives up on the vision and they shrink or become smaller than what they came here to be. And I don't know Prince's exact story. He was just the artist that came to mind as I was sharing that. So when I saw this beautiful bird flying, my first thought was, that bird is in its gift. It is delighting in the reason for which it was created, which is to fly. It's doing what it came here to do. It's flying high. And then my second was how strong the body must be to be able to hold and maintain that. And then right after that, what followed was, well then, I wonder what the other birds think of that bird. Or is that bird lonely because it's flying by itself instead of being part of a flock? And these are my interpretations. Everyone has their own themes that they're exploring in their life. So clearly One of mine is like belonging or inclusion or abandonment, because those are a part of the stories that I've worked through in my human journey. What I know to be true, and what that bird was reflecting to me today, is it is absolutely beautiful to witness a being that is in its excellence, in its genius. And there is nothing that I would want more for that bird than to fly high. And I believe at our best, that's how we all are with each other. I want everyone I know to be at their best, to fly high and bring into form everything they came here to create. And I want for myself to do the same, to be this incredible bird of flight that soars high over the landscapes, like the Zen Possibilities card from my Osho deck. It's the eagle that flies over the landscape and is able to see new vistas and then share them and talk about them and be this visionary, this thought leader, this vibration holder of pure love expressed here in the physical. And then others can find their way to that expression of it for themselves, to their own vistas, to their own flying high locations and experiences. It is such a gift to have the opportunity in physical bodies to be able to bring love consciousness through our journeys into form, into expression. There's a siren coming down the road. That's so funny. I believe, using Prince as an example, his legacy of love, his vision of how songs and music are translated. Listen to that. That's so funny. Guess I need to close the windows tomorrow, at least during the podcast. When Prince was here and he was creating all of those CDs and musical creations, I don't know if he was thinking about what would happen after he left, after he transitioned. And yet I guarantee that the soul, the spirit, the consciousness that was in the human that we knew as Prince, or the artist formerly known as Prince, who went back to Prince, whatever his name was along the journey, I believe that his soul delights in the ways that we all still are brought to tears by Purple Rain, that we are all inspired by the joy that he brought through in his sounds. I am certain that his soul is so pleased. And so perhaps that soul takes on another form, and we become these beautiful expressions of creation and light and sound, and we become birds and we fly high and we inspire others, or we inspire humans. The whole journey it's so unknown. And so today the invitation or the offer to explore further that I share with you is, what vistas could you see, or would you want to see, if you flew a little higher, if you allowed yourself to truly soar in ways perhaps that you haven't permitted yourself to before? What if there's an entirely new landscape just over the mountain that you can't see around? And if you allowed yourself to tap in, to visualize, to be really still in your meditation or your body movement time, to be still in your body movement, to be still internally as your body moves, what could you see that none of us have access to? And if you share that, how would you inspire all of us to continue flying higher? It's fun to consider. We are at a new moon tomorrow, so there are fields upon fields of possibilities that await. Thank you for tuning into this vibration of pure love. I invite you to join me in aligning with the optimal health of your mind, body, spirit in the virtual community of Viv's Energy Gym. You can learn more at mysouljourney.com. Let's take this message of Gaia's love out into all of our relationships and communities today. So much love from my heart to yours.